I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel and like this video. My goal is to reach the first 1,000 subscribers. Thank you and enjoy. Before I get into it, here's the practical point of this story. A lot of guys don't lose their marriage in one big moment. They lose it in small, paper cuts that look harmless. A joke in public, a little secrecy, a just sign this, a new rule you didn't agree to. This is about noticing those early signals and responding like an adult. Not with shouting, not with begging, not with endless talks that go nowhere. With structure, with boundaries, with receipts. If you've ever felt someone quietly moving the goalposts while calling you controlling for noticing, pay attention. The focus here is simple: how to protect your resources, your sanity, and your self-respect without turning your home into a war zone. She laid the papers out on the kitchen table like she was setting plates for dinner. Just formalities, Lainey said, tapping the top page with her nail. Sign so we don't drag this out. I was standing there in socks, coffee cooling in my hand, thinking about my first call of the day. Mortgage, work, normal life. I glanced at the stack like an idiot glances at a manual. Okay, I said, and I signed where the sticky notes pointed. Lainey smiled like she'd won something small. A week later, she hit me with it like it was a weather update. By the way, she said, looking into the fridge, the stuff we got together is in my name now. It's easier. I set my mug down. Slow. Quiet. Easier for who? She didn't turn around. Don't start. You hate paperwork. I handled it. I stared at her back and felt something click into place. Not anger. Not heartbreak. A clean little decision. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have asked for those papers back with my signature still wet. That morning wasn't even the first weird moment. It was just the first one with a price tag. A couple weeks earlier, we'd been on the same kitchen floor, same lights, same routine. We were arguing about the news like every other couple. Nothing serious. Just talking. I said, sometimes a grown man has to answer for what he says. That's the whole point of being a man. Lainey snapped like I'd insulted her mother. Why do you always defend yourselves? She fired back. Men are always the ones losing. You don't get it. I blinked at her. What do you mean you? I'm the only guy in this kitchen. She rolled her eyes hard. Don't twist it. I'm talking about the principle. You're talking like you've got a personal stake in some stranger's principle. Her jaw tightened. You're imagining things. I'm observing things. She waved me off like I was a coworker bothering her. Everett, stop. You sound paranoid. Paranoid. That word is a lazy weapon. It's what people use when they want you to doubt your own eyes. After the paper's reveal, I didn't argue in that moment. That's what she expected, me getting loud so she could call me unstable and walk away with the win. Instead, I changed the rules. I moved my paycheck into a separate account that afternoon. I didn't hide it. I didn't dramatize it. I also wrote a clean list of what I'd cover for the house: utilities, insurance, groceries, fixed numbers, fixed dates. No. Hey, can you grab this? Improvising. No blank checks. Adult structure. 2 days later, she noticed. Because Lainey noticed everything that reduced her control. She cornered me in the hallway while I was putting on my jacket. What is this? She held up her phone like it was evidence. The transfer. The new account. Are you punishing me? I adjusted my collar and met her eyes. This isn't punishment, I told her. This is order. You like order. Enjoy. Her mouth opened and closed like she was searching for the right angle. You're acting like I did something wrong. You did something strategic, I corrected. So did I. She stepped closer. We're married. Then we should be transparent, I said. That's how marriage works. She gave me a tight smile. You don't have to understand everything. I don't have to sign everything either. That line landed. I saw it. Her face didn't change much, but her eyes cooled. That was the first loop of intrigue she opened. How far she was willing to go once she didn't get the old version of me. Over the next week, the pattern got cleaner. Cold mornings. Busy evenings. Little jokes about my need to control everything. And always, that same theme. She wanted comfort and leverage, and she wanted me quiet. Then came her first little performance of softness. Right on schedule, right after she felt the boundary. She came home with takeout and that careful voice like she'd rehearsed it in the car. Hey, she said, setting the bag down. I'm sorry I got sharp the other day. I pushed too hard. Can we just have dinner together? It was almost sweet. Almost. I nodded once. Sure. She tried to make it warm. Plates. Music low. She even asked about my day. Halfway through, She reached across the table, touched my wrist. I miss us, she said. I miss when you didn't make everything a thing. I kept my face neutral. I miss when we didn't need paperwork to be honest. Her fingers paused. She recovered fast. We're fine. You're just intense lately. I'm consistent, I replied. There's a difference. She leaned back, studying me like a problem. Okay, she said softly. We'll do it your way. But her eyes said something else. We'll see. A few days later, we went to Ray and Melissa's place. Backyard cookout. Normal suburban scene. Plastic cups, grill smoke, someone's dog begging for a hot dog. Ray's a decent guy, works with his hands, laughs easy, doesn't stir drama. Melissa is the opposite. She's the kind of woman who says, I'm just being honest, right after she throws a grenade. Lainey was in a bright mood in front of them, laughing loud, touching my arm like we were a commercial. Melissa glanced at me over her cup. Everett, why do you look like you're at a tax seminar? I gave her a small smile. I'm just digesting. Lainey cut in, louder than necessary. He's serious now. Mr. Principals. It's adorable. Melissa snorted. Oh no. Principals. How will we survive? Lainey laughed the loudest. She loved the stage. I set my plate down on Ray's patio table. Calm. No rush. We don't do personal stuff as entertainment, I said, letting my eyes move from Melissa to Lainey. If anyone needs theater, I'm not an actor. Ray cleared his throat and lifted his tongs like a peace flag. All right. Burgers are ready. Let's not turn this into a talk show. Melissa raised her eyebrows like I'd offended her. Wow. Okay. Lainey's smile stayed on, but her eyes were cold, and that's the part most people don't notice. Ray noticed. He avoided looking at her after that. Later, in the car, Lainey dropped the fake warmth the second the door shut. You embarrassed me, she hissed, staring straight ahead. I pulled out of the driveway slow, steady. No, I said. I stopped you from embarrassing me. You made me look bad in front of my friends. You made yourself look bad, I replied. I just refused to play along. Her nails tapped the door handle. So now you're going to police what I say? I'm going to police what I accept, I answered. Big difference. She laughed once. Dry? You think you're teaching me a lesson. I'm teaching myself one, I said. About who has access to me. She turned her head, eyes narrowed. You're acting like you're better than everyone. I glanced at her. No, I'm acting like I'm not available for disrespect. That's not better. That's basic. She went quiet for the rest of the ride, and that silence wasn't peace. It was planning. Over the next week, she tested new angles. If sarcasm didn't move me, she tried guilt. If guilt didn't move me, she tried distance. She'd disappear into the bedroom with her phone, turn the screen away, then stroll out like nothing happened. One night, she hit me with an ultimatum dressed as a suggestion. We should simplify things, she said, leaning on the counter while I loaded the dishwasher. Maybe you don't need to be involved in my stuff. It's stressful. I didn't stop what I was doing. Plate. Rack. Click. Your stuff doesn't concern me, I agreed. Our stuff does. She smiled like she'd expected that. See? That's the problem. You always make it our stuff. It becomes our stuff when our money, our house, our name is involved, I replied. That's not control. That's adulthood. Lainey tilted her head. So what? You want passwords? You want to monitor me? I shut the dishwasher and turned to face her. I want transparency where we share risk, I said. And I want consent where my signature is involved. Those aren't extreme demands. Those are normal. She stared at me, then let out a small laugh. God, she said. You're exhausting. I shrugged once. Then rest. But the rules stay. That night, I opened a second loop in my own head. If she'd already moved assets into her name once, what else was she moving while I slept? I didn't stalk. I didn't follow her car. I didn't turn into some cartoon. I did something boring. I checked. I pulled our last few months of shared expenses, made my own file. Bills. Transfers. Anything unusual. I didn't need to find a smoking gun to justify my boundaries. The fact she'd slid paperwork under my nose was enough. Then she did her second softening. Bigger and sweeter, like she'd switched strategies. She showed up at my office one afternoon with lunch. That never happened. My coworker, Denise, saw her at reception and gave me a look like, interesting. Denise is sharp. Late 50s. No nonsense. She's the type who can read a room faster than most people read an email. Lainey's here, Denise said, leaning into my doorway. And she's smiling like she wants something. I didn't even flinch. Send her in. Lainey walked in carrying a bag and that bright, public face. "Hey, babe," she said, like we were a perfect couple. "I brought you lunch. I'm proud of you. You worked so hard." Denise didn't leave. She stood by my file cabinet pretending to organize a folder, but her ears were fully on. Lainey set the bag on my desk and slid closer. "You're the most reliable man I know," she added, voice softer. "I'm lucky." I let that sit for a second, then nodded once. "Good." She blinked. "Good. Good that you recognize it," I said. "What do you need?" Denise's mouth twitched. She liked that. Lainey's smile tightened, but she pushed through. "I need you to stop digging into my things," she said gently, like she was asking me to stop leaving dishes in the sink. "It's important. I just need you to trust me. Completely." I leaned back in my chair. "Trust doesn't mean blind," I replied. "And completely isn't a marriage request. It's a control request." Her eyes flashed. Then she caught herself because Denise was still there. Denise cleared her throat. "I can come back." "No," I said, looking at Lainey. "Stay? This is quick." Lainey forced a laugh. "Everett, don't be dramatic." I nodded toward the bag. "Thanks for lunch. Now listen. No more sign without reading. No more moving shared things without my approval. And if you want privacy, you can have it. On things that are actually yours. But anything tied to me? Transparent." Lainey's jaw moved. She swallowed the urge to snap. "Fine," she said too fast. "Whatever you want." Denise looked at me when Lainey turned away, and her eyes said, "That woman is not here for love." Lainey leaned in like she was giving me a kiss goodbye, but she whispered, low, "You're making this ugly." I met her whisper with a normal tone. "You started ugly. I'm just refusing to pretend." She left with her chin up. Denise waited until the door shut. Denise stepped into my office, arms crossed. "That wasn't a lunch visit." "No," I agreed. "It was a negotiation." Denise nodded slowly. "Then don't negotiate your dignity. Make decisions." "I am," I said. "One file at a time." That night Lainey was calmer. Too calm. She made small talk. Asked about work. Told me Melissa thought I'd been intense at the cookout. I smiled without warmth. Melissa can think whatever she wants. Lainey watched me eat like she was counting my breaths. "You don't care what people think anymore?" she asked. "I care what I respect," I replied. "That list is shorter." She took a sip of water, then set the glass down carefully. "You know," she said, "if you keep acting like this, you'll push me away." I didn't even look up. Adults don't get pushed away by boundaries. They get pushed away by consequences. Her face tightened. "So now you're threatening me." I finally looked at her, calm as a parked car. "No," I said. "I'm informing you." A couple days later, the kill turn showed up without drama, without spying, without a cinematic moment. Just a tablet and an open browser. It was midday. I was home early because a meeting got moved. Lainey wasn't there. I grabbed our shared tablet from the couch to look up a recipe. Something simple. Chicken, rice, whatever. The screen lit up with tabs already open. Travel site. Confirmation page. 2 guests. 1 room. Weekend dates. This coming weekend. I didn't scroll through messages. I didn't hunt for names like some desperate guy. I didn't need to. A booking for 2 is a statement. I closed the tab and opened the recipe like I was looking for spices. My hands were steady. My face was normal. That's the thing about grown men who respect themselves. We don't need to perform shock for an audience. We just take in information and adjust the future. That evening I played it normal. Dinner. A couple neutral comments. No interrogation. Lainey relaxed a little, like she thought she'd gotten away with something. After she went a shower, I did the responsible version of confirming facts. We had a shared family cloud account. No hacking. No drama. Just the plain stats it offered. Numbers, frequency, patterns. Who she contacted the most over the last months. Times. Spikes. The data didn't scream. It didn't need to. It pointed. I printed a couple pages. A few screenshots. Not because I needed revenge. Because I needed clarity that couldn't be gaslit. The next day, I arranged the conversation like a business meeting. Kitchen table. Morning light. Coffee. Papers stacked neatly in front of my seat. Lainey walked in wearing that casual face, like she could keep the whole thing floating. "What's this?" she asked, pointing at the stack. I didn't answer immediately. I just slid the papers to the middle of the table and watched her eyes track the numbers. She sat down slowly, like her legs remembered they were supposed to hold her up. She stared at the printouts without looking at me. I can explain, she said quietly. I'm sure you can, I replied. That's not the same as it makes sense. She lifted her chin. You don't understand. I cut her off with one raised finger. Not aggressive, just final. I understand enough, I said. You moved shared assets into your name. You booked a weekend for two. And you expected me to stay convenient. Her lips parted. She tried a new angle fast. You checked on me. That's not normal. I checked facts tied to my life. I answered. That's normal. What's not normal is treating marriage like a one-way contract. She swallowed and tried to look offended. So you're saying I'm some kind of criminal? I almost laughed. Don't bring drama words into it. This isn't a movie. This is logistics. She leaned forward. Everett, you're overreacting. I nodded once. No, I'm reacting correctly. You mistook my trust for permission. Her voice sharpened. You're going to throw everything away because of a booking you don't even understand. I stared at her. Then help me understand. Who's the second guest? Her eyes flicked away. Just for a second. That was all I needed. She exhaled like she was tired of me. You're impossible. And you're predictable, I replied. When you can't answer, you attack. She sat back and folded her arms. So what? You want me to beg? I tilted my head. No, I want you to be honest. For once. She laughed, bitter. Honest. You want honesty now, after you started acting like my dad with your rules? I shrugged. If you didn't want rules, you shouldn't have rewritten them in secret. She stared at the papers again, then at me, and her eyes got glassy, almost. Like she was about to cry. Here comes the theater, I thought. I feel trapped, she said softly. I feel like I can't breathe. I didn't move. Then don't breathe here. I answered. Go breathe wherever you booked. That line landed hard. Her face changed. Not sad anymore. Angry. You're being cruel. No, I said. I'm being done. She pushed her chair back fast. So you're leaving? You're really doing this? I'm changing the structure, I replied. Starting now. What structure? She snapped. You can't just walk out. I stood up and gathered the papers like they were receipts at a store. Watch me, I told her. That afternoon I called a lawyer. Not to start a war, not to drag it into some public circus. To communicate cleanly, through proper channels, and to protect my side of the boundary. I wasn't going to do late-night emotional texting with someone who treated signatures like toys. Within 2 days, Lainey switched to message storms. Angry, then sweet. Sharp, then pleading. 2 a day, sometimes 5. She wanted me back in the ring. I read every one and answered none. Then my attorney sent one message for me. Plain and simple. All communication in writing, about logistics only. No personal contact. Lainey hated that. She couldn't bait a document. She tried anyway. She showed up at my work parking lot Friday evening as I walked out. The sun was low, the lot mostly empty. My coworker Marcus was walking with me. Big guy, quiet, always chewing gum like it's his job. Lainey stepped out from behind my car, like she'd rehearsed the angle. Everett, she said, voice soft, hands open. Please, don't do this like a robot. Marcus slowed, eyes flicking between us. I kept my keys in my hand, not fidgeting. This isn't a conversation, I said. This is a boundary. Her face tightened. You can't even look at me? I'm looking at you right now, I replied. And I'm choosing distance. She glanced at Marcus and put on the sweet voice again. Hi, I'm his wife. Marcus nodded once. I'm leaving, he said, but he didn't actually leave. He just drifted a few steps away, close enough to witness. Lainey stepped closer. Everett, you're making me the bad guy. I smiled slightly. You made choices. Choices have labels. Her eyes flashed. I didn't do what you think. Then you should have had answers, I replied. You had insults instead. She reached for my arm. I shifted half a step back. No drama. Just physics. Don't, I said. She froze, offended. Wow. Yeah, I answered. Wow is right. Her voice changed, sharp again. So you're just going to abandon your home? Your marriage? I'm not abandoning anything, I said. I'm exiting a situation that stopped respecting me. She scoffed. You're so cold. I glanced at my car. Cold as rewriting paperwork and smiling about it. Marcus finally spoke, voice low. Ma'am, he said don't. Might be smart to hear him. Lainey shot Marcus a look like she could melt him. Marcus just chewed his gum, unimpressed. Lainey turned back to me, trying one last time with softness. I made mistakes, she said. I was scared. I didn't want to lose stability. There it was. Not an apology. A reason she thought excused the strategy. I nodded. Stability isn't something you steal from your partner. It's something you build with them. Her eyes got wet for real this time. So that's it. I opened my car door. That's it. I drove away and didn't check the rear view like a teenager. I wasn't leaving to make a point. I was leaving to keep mine. Saturday morning, I packed my things in one day. No screaming. No dramatic speeches. Just boxes and a checklist. Only what was mine. Clothes. Tools. Personal documents. A couple photos. That was it. I didn't want trophies. I wanted freedom. Ray came by when he heard, because Ray's the kind of guy who shows up with a truck and no questions. He stood in the doorway, looking around our house like it suddenly felt smaller. Man, Ray muttered. I knew that cookout got weird. It wasn't the cookout, I told him. It was the reveal. Ray nodded and lifted a box like it weighed nothing. You okay? I'm clear, I said. That's better than okay. Lainey came home while we were loading the last box. She stopped in the driveway, seeing the truck, seeing my stuff. Her face went through anger, then panic, then that fake smile again, like she could talk me into reversing time. You're really doing it, she said, voice trembling. I carried one last box to the truck and set it down. Yes, I replied. She took a step toward me. Everett, this is insane. We can fix it. I looked at her for a long second, like I was looking at a stranger who happened to know my name. You had chances, I said. You used them to test how much you could take. Her voice rose. You're punishing me. I shook my head once. I'm choosing myself. Ray closed the truck gate with a clean thunk. No drama. Just finality. Lainey's eyes darted to Ray, then back to me, like she wanted an ally and found none. You think you're going to be happier? She snapped. I paused at the front door, went inside, and walked to the little entry table. I took my keys off my ring, just the house key, and set it down. Then I walked back out. Lainey was still standing there, arms crossed, trying to look in control while her voice shook. I stopped at the threshold and didn't turn it into a speech. Just one sentence. Precise. You wanted control, I said, not raising my voice. Keep it, just without me. I closed the door quietly and walked to the truck like I was going out for groceries. She didn't chase. Not at first. She was still processing the idea that I meant it. 6 months later, my life looks cleaner than it ever did in that house. I rent a place that's mine. No weird energy, no silent tests, no just sign this. I wake up early, hit the gym, go to work, come home to peace. My finances are steady. My schedule is mine again. I started dating a woman named Brooke. She's direct. She says what she means. The first time she didn't like something, she didn't set a trap. She told me, I don't do mixed signals, Brooke said over coffee one morning. If we're building something, we're building it. If not, don't waste my time. I smiled. Finally, an adult. I see Ray sometimes. We grill. We talk about work. He doesn't ask for gossip. He just respects the line. As for Lainey, I only hear small updates through mutual circles. The house got quieter, then it got complicated. Melissa stopped posting pictures with her. People love a show until the show turns on them. Lainey kept her control, but the comfort and status that came from having a steady man in the frame, that part didn't stick around. And me? I don't miss the marriage. I miss the version of it I thought I had. There's a difference. One is nostalgia. The other is a lesson. Here's what I took from it. And I'm saying this to you like I'd say it to a buddy at a table. First lesson. The moment someone asks you to just sign or just trust while they're changing the terms, treat it like a business deal. Read. Verify. Slow down. Trust isn't a blindfold. If you ignore that early signal because you want peace, you don't get peace. You get a bigger problem later with your name already on it. Second lesson. Public disrespect is never just a joke. The cookout wasn't about burgers. It was about status. When I set that boundary in front of witnesses, it wasn't to embarrass her. It was to end the performance. If you let someone turn you into a punchline in front of others, you teach them it's allowed. Third lesson, don't get trapped in endless talking. That's the mistake a lot of men make. They think if they explain better, the other person will suddenly respect them. Respect doesn't arrive through speeches. It arrives through consequences. I didn't need to threaten. I didn't need to beg. I changed the structure, communicated through channels, and walked away. The big idea is simple. Comfort is nice, but it's not worth your dignity. If someone wants the benefits of you while treating your boundaries like a joke, you don't argue them into decency. You remove your access. Quietly. Cleanly. and you build a better life where respect isn't a negotiation. That's the end of the story. And since you're here, you must have enjoyed it. Why not subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos? Thanks, and have a nice day.